I want to start with something that sounds like a complete non sequitur.
Okay.
If I told you that flossing your teeth could reduce your risk of dementia by nearly half, you'd probably tell me to check my sources.
I would. Yeah, it sounds like one of those old wives' tales. But that is an actual startling statistic from the research we're looking at today.
And it's the perfect entry point.
It really is, because it forces us to reframe how we see the human body. We think of the brain as this fortress in a tower, the command center, right?
Totally separate from the messy biology downstairs.
Exactly. But that statistic about flossing, it proves the fortress has a back door.
And that back door is what we are unpacking today. We're doing a deep dive into the gut-brain axis.
And we're basing this on a really fascinating conversation with Professor Tim Spector.
Right. And for anyone who hasn't encountered him, Spector isn't just some wellness influencer. He's one of the top 100 most cited scientists in the world, a genetic epidemiologist.
He's the guy leading the charge on the microbiome. And he's interesting because he's challenging what he calls the Cartesian view.
The old idea from Descartes, right? Mind is a ghost in the machine.
Exactly. Totally distinct from the physical body. Spector argues that for 40 years, medicine has just been going down the wrong path, treating the brain in isolation.
So the mission here is to understand why our stomach might actually be running the show.
And, more importantly, how you can eat to protect your brain.
Okay, let's get right into the biology, because this honestly blew my mind. Spector calls the gut the second brain. I've heard that term thrown around, on yogurt commercials, but I didn't realize how literal it was.
It's incredibly literal. In fact, if you look at embryology, how we form in the womb, the gut was actually our first brain.
Wait, really? The first?
The very first. When an embryo develops, the enteric nervous system, that's the network of nerves around the intestines, it forms first. The brain in our head was basically an evolutionary afterthought.
That is humbling. We think we're so smart, but we're basically just a fancy tube that grew ahead.
That's one way to put it. And these two brains are physically connected by the vagus nerve.
The superhighway of information.
Right, it's the longest nerve in the body. But here's the critical stat that just flips the script. 80% of the signals on that highway go from the gut up to the brain.
Hold on. 80%.
80. Only 20% go from the brain down to the gut.
So we assume the brain is the CEO, barking orders down to the factory floor.
But you're saying the factory's sending most of the memos.
It's sending the vast majority of them. The gut is sensing the environment. Is there food? Is there a toxin? And it's telling the brain how to feel about it.
And it's not just nerves. It's the immune system. Spector points out that 70% of our body's immune cells live in the gut lining.
This connects to one of the biggest aha moments for me in this research, which is the link between the gut, the immune system, and depression.
This is a radical shift in thinking.
Spector suggests that what we call depression might not be a chemical imbalance in the head, but an immune response starting in the stomach.
He uses this great analogy of the COVID-19 vaccine. You know how after getting a shot, you might feel a bit low, tired, sort of depressed for 24 hours?
Oh, absolutely. You just want to curl up in bed, cancel everything.
Right. But that isn't sadness. You're not grieving anything. That's your immune system spiking inflammation and signaling the brain to engage in sickness behavior.
The survival mechanism.
It's telling you to withdraw and conserve energy to fight a threat.
So the theory is that long-term depression is this mechanism getting stuck on...
That's the hypothesis. If your gut is unhealthy, it's constantly tickling the immune system, keeping inflammation high. So your brain is perpetually getting that signal to engage sickness behavior. It thinks you're under attack.
That changes the entire paradigm. And the stakes here are incredibly high. It's not just mood, it's long-term degeneration. Spector talks about Parkinson's and dementia, and the timeline is terrifying.
It is scary, but it's also empowering because it gives us a window to act.
How so?
Well, with Parkinson's, the evidence suggests it likely starts in the gut 10 years before you ever see a tremor.
10 years. So we're missing the diagnosis for a decade.
We're looking in the wrong place. They found misfolded proteins, one called alpha-synuclein, in the gut. These proteins then travel up that vagus nerve highway.
And the warning signs are gut issues.
Often things like chronic constipation a decade prior.
And he also gets very personal about dementia. His mother had vascular dementia, which is different from Alzheimer's.
It is. Alzheimer's is more about protein tangles.
Yeah.
Vascular dementia is the plumbing blocked arteries in the brain, very similar to heart disease.
So he realized he had genetic risks for it.
Right, for diabetes and heart disease, which put him at higher risk.
Yeah.
But the takeaway is that it's not just genetic destiny. if you treat the arteries and the gut well.
You can potentially postpone or even prevent the brain disease. Okay, so we know the why. The gut rules the brain. Now I want to get into the weeds of the how. Spector lists 8 specific rules.
Let's break them down.
Rule number 1 seems simple enough. Be mindful.
Simple, but we all ignore it. We eat blindly in front of the TV, scrolling on our phones.
Guilty.
The problem is, digestion starts in the brain. If you aren't paying attention, your body's satiety signals, which come from the gut, they just don't register properly. You overeat.
Okay, I can work on that. But rule number 2, this is the one that scares people. Eat 30 plants a week.
The magic number.
Oh,
30.
that just sounds insane. I look at my shopping cart and I see maybe 5. How is a normal person supposed to hit 30?
It's actually easier than you think, but you have to redefine plant. It's not just a side of steamed broccoli.
Okay, so what counts?
Everything.
Yeah.
Nuts, seeds, beans, herbs, spices.
Spices.
Spices, coffee counts. Dark chocolate counts.
Wait, coffee is a plant.
It's a bean, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you have a morning coffee, a square of dark chocolate, and a curry with turmeric and cumin, you just hit 4 or 5 plants right there.
So a dash of cinnamon on my oatmeal gets me a point.
It does. And this matters because of the zoo analogy he uses.
Yeah.
Imagine your gut microbiome is a zoo full of rare animals.
A very crowded zoo. We have, 40 to 100 trillion microbes?
It is. And just like a real zoo, different animals eat different things. If you only feed them one food, say white bread,
The rare exotic ones die off.
and you're left with just the pigeons and the rats, the bad bacteria that cause inflammation, you need diversity to feed everyone.
That makes the 30 number feel a lot less intimidating. Okay, rule number 3. Fermented foods. He calls them the 4Ks.
Kimchi, kefir, kombucha, and kraut sauerkraut, plus yogurt and cheese.
The goal is 3 portions a day.
And research shows this can reduce inflammation by 25% in just 4 weeks.
Here's where I struggle. I've tried kombucha. It's like vinegar soda. Is there a workaround?
Start small. Mix a spoonful of kimchi into a stir fry. Use kefir in a smoothie. But there's also this fascinating concept called zombie biotics.
Zombie biotics.
Yeah. People worry that pasteurized ferments, like sourdough bread, are useless because the heat has killed the bacteria.
I assumed that. If the bacteria are dead, they can't do anything, right?
Not true. It turns out even the dead microbes, their cell walls, still contain these specific proteins. So when those dead bodies pass through your gut, they still tickle the immune receptors in a good way.
So I don't have to keep a sourdough starter alive like a pet. I can buy the real stuff from a bakery, and it still counts.
It still counts. Live is best, but the dead ones still do the work.
That is a relief. Okay, let's move to subtraction. Rule 4 is pivot protein. He says we're obsessed with meat and eggs.
We're obsessed with protein quantity, but we ignore the delivery mechanism. Most of us get plenty of protein. What we're starving for is fiber.
90% of us are fiber deficient.
At least. So by pivoting to beans, legumes, mushrooms, you get the protein, but you also get the fiber. The meat doesn't feed the zoo. The fiber does.
Rule 5, quality over calories. He's very against calorie counting.
It's a trap because it ignores biology. If you eat low-quality diet food, your body fights back. Low-fat yogurts replace fat with artificial stuff that doesn't satisfy the gut signals. So your brain keeps screaming, hungry.
Which leads right into rule 6, avoid high-risk processed foods. He has a great test for this, the bread test.
Yes, this is a great visualization. If you take a piece of ultra-processed white bread and put it in your mouth, what happens?
It basically turns to mush. It dissolves.
Like baby food. So your body's satiety timer doesn't even start. You can eat 4 slices before your brain registers you've eaten. But real bread rye sourdough, it requires actual chewing.
That chewing gives your gut time to signal, I'm getting full.
Exactly.
Rule 7 is eat colors, not just for Instagram.
No, it's about polyphenols. These are defense chemicals in plants. They're usually bright-colored or bitter. Think berries, dark chocolate, extra virgin olive oil. They are rocket fuel for your microbes.
And finally, rule 8, give your gut a rest.
This is about the cleaning team. There's a specific group of microbes that only comes out to clean the lining of your gut when you are not eating.
So if I'm snacking on popcorn at midnight,
The cleaning crew never clocks in. Your gut lining stays dirty, which leads to inflammation. He suggests a 12 to 14-hour fast overnight.
finish dinner at 8 p.m., don't eat until 10 a.m.
It's not extreme. It's mostly sleeping time anyway.
Okay, I want to pivot to some surprising things he mentioned. Usually when we talk health, we have to give up stuff we love. So Does he want me to quit my morning coffee?
Actually, quite the opposite. This is one of the most surprising parts of his research. He's a massive proponent of coffee.
Okay, now I'm really listening. Is this just a caffeine buzz thing, or is there biology here?
Yeah, it's biology, and it's incredibly specific. It turns out there's a microbe in your gut called Loranobacter. Loranobacter. And this little guy is a specialist. He pretty much only eats coffee.
So if you don't drink coffee, he starves.
He disappears. If you do, he thrives. And in return for the coffee, he produces chemicals that help regulate your immune system.
So I'm not addicted to caffeine. I'm just being a responsible pet owner.
You could say that. And the stats back it up. 2 to 5 cups a day is associated with a 25% reduction in heart disease risk.
There's got to be a catch.
There is. It has to be coffee. Not a coffee-flavored dessert loaded with sugar and syrups. Those additives undo all the benefits.
Got it. What about gluten? That's the other big villain. Everyone seems to be going gluten-free.
Spector is quite critical of that trend. He notes that while 30% of people think they're gluten intolerant, only about 1% actually have celiac disease.
So why do so many people feel bad when they eat bread?
He believes the culprit isn't the gluten, it's the vehicle. Cheap supermarket bread is loaded with emulsifiers, preservatives, chemicals. People switch to expensive gluten-free bread.
Which is often even more processed.
Exactly. And has even less fiber. So their gut health gets worse. For most people, real sourdough wheat bread is a health food.
Now here's one where he really surprised me. Keto. He used to be very anti-keto.
And now he calls himself keto curious. It's a great example of a scientist following the data. He sees the evidence that it works for childhood epilepsy, that it resets the brain.
But wait, isn't keto just bacon and butter? How is that good for the microbiome if we need 30 plants?
That's the conflict.
Yeah.
Dirty keto is terrible for the gut. The microbes starve. Spector admits this. But he thinks the metabolic reset is valuable for mental clarity, for dampening that food noise.
So what's the solution? A hybrid?
He suggests the hybrid, a green keto. You do it for a short period, but you prioritize low-carb plants, nuts, seeds, leafy greens, so you aren't starving your zoo.
It's about balance, not staying in ketosis forever.
Right.
If we zoom out, what's fascinating is the philosophical shift. We aren't just individuals, we're vessels. Spector mentioned that even our mitochondria, the batteries in our cells, were originally ancient microbes. We are, quite literally, made of bugs.
It forces you to rethink who you are. We're a walking hotel for trillions of tiny organisms, and they're paying rent by keeping our brain working.
Before we wrap up, there was one final thought from Spector that I'm still chewing on, about the new weight loss drugs, like Ozempic.
Yes, the GLP-1 agonists. This raises a profound question about human nature.
They work by mimicking gut hormones. Obviously, they stop people from wanting to eat.
But the reports coming out now show they also reduce the drive for gambling, for alcohol, even for shopping addictions.
That's the part that gets me. We think our personality, our vices, our willpower, it comes from our soul or our mind. But if a drug that mimics a gut hormone can stop you from gambling?
It forces us to ask,
Yeah.
how much of us is actually generated by us and how much is being dictated by signals from our stomach?
If tweaking a gut hormone changes your risk-taking behavior.
It suggests the gut might be the seat of the self much more than we ever imagined.
That is something to think about next time you have a gut feeling. It might literally be your bacteria telling you what to do.
Indeed. It puts trust your gut in a whole new light.
That's it for this deep dive. Go eat some kimchi, floss your teeth, and treat your internal zoo with some respect. Thanks for listening.